Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. And to introduce our subject tonight, we're going to start with this.
And now let's meet our first challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? How are you, Mr. X? Nice to see you. Would ask you where you're from, sir.
Pennsylvania.
From Pennsylvania? What town in Pennsylvania?
Latrobe.
Have you distinguished yourself in sports?
You might say that.
Is this a game that you play that has won you acclaim?
Yes.
Is it a game played by both men and women?
Yes.
Is it golf?
That's right.
Are you a champion of something or other?
Arnold Palmer.
Palmer? You Arnold Palmer?
National Open and Masters champ.
Well, our feature tonight is Arnold Palmer, who died recently at the age of 87, and that was the summer of 1960 after he won the Masters. And amazingly, the panel didn't wear masks, yet they didn't recognize Arnold Palmer. That was probably one of the last times he heard the question, "Are you Arnold Palmer?" In less than a year, he would become one of the most recognizable faces in the world. And that's because Arnold Palmer was the greatest golfer of all time. He was the king. Now, I don't mean that he was the best golfer, although he was certainly right up there, and in the late 1950s and early 1960s, he was the best golfer in the world. Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods have all won more PGA tournaments than him. When I say the greatest, no one did more to popularize golf than Arnold Palmer. It was because of his style, his swashbuckling, his charisma, his wit, his charm, and his presence on the golf course and off the golf course. He was the handsome, outgoing hero of the era. What John Kennedy was to politics, Arnold Palmer was to golf. And this was at a time when the American economy was prospering, baby boomers were coming of age, and of course television was becoming popular. That's one reason the panelists didn't recognize him, because they had not seen him very much on television. Soon his face would be all over television, and we'd be selling golf to more people than had ever played before. As much as anyone ever in sports, Arnold Palmer was the right guy at the right time in the right place. Here's a report on the life of Arnold Palmer.
Few could have imagined the impact a young man from Latrobe, Pennsylvania would have on the game of golf. His swashbuckling style not only won tournaments, but the hearts of many worldwide. His hard work, sportsmanship, philanthropy, and dedication became the standard by which today's PGA Tour players conduct themselves. Arnold Palmer was king of the sport, a moniker that he himself had often said was too lofty a stature. Nevertheless, he carried himself in royal fashion, and his impact on the game of golf will last for generations to come. Arnold Palmer developed his style on his home course, where his father Deacon was the head professional and greenskeeper. He attended Wake Forest University on a golf scholarship, but briefly gave up the game his senior year to enlist in the U.S. Coast Guard, where he served 3 years. Upon returning, he picked up the game right where he left off and won the 1954 United States Amateur. He decided to give professional golf a try and won his first PGA Tour title his rookie year at the 1955 Canadian Open. Between his first PGA Tour victory at the age of 25 and his last win in 1973 at the age of 43, Palmer collected 62 PGA Tour titles and 7 majors. He personified the American spirit, becoming the first true superstar of the television age, and single-handedly took golf out of the country clubs and into our living rooms. Off the golf course, Arnold Palmer was perhaps the single most recognizable athlete on television and the big screen, and was the first to capitalize on his image. As a corporate spokesperson, Palmer fused a spotless personal reputation with a charming, relatable spirit that had captivated those on Madison Avenue since the 1960s. He was a patriot and served as golf's ambassador to the White House. His golf course design company produced more than 200 courses worldwide. After conquering the advertising and business worlds, Palmer turned his attention to the television medium. As a co-founder of Golf Channel, he oversaw its unprecedented growth and impact on the sports landscape. Palmer's true legacy was the impact he had on the lives of others. In the 1980s, he established the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children and Women, and subsequently the Arnold Palmer Medical Center in Orlando. Palmer built centers for cancer treatment in California and in his hometown of Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Arnold Palmer was one of those rare athletes, one of those rare human beings who come along once in a lifetime. He received countless awards in business and golf and was a charter member of the World Golf Hall of Fame. In 2004, the sporting legend was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President George W. Bush. And in 2012, he became only the 6th athlete to receive the Congressional Gold Medal.
I hope that I can thank you properly and tell you how much it means to me to be here to accept this award. I am very humbled. Thank you very much.
Those lucky enough to have witnessed his greatness will speak to his graciousness and a legacy that will inspire for generations to come. Arnold Palmer, a trailblazer, a philanthropist, a king.
If you're wondering how influential Arnold Palmer was, think about this. How many athletes have had a drink named after them? This was on The Simpsons, actually the day he died. And then he explains how the Arnold Palmer came to be.
I'm gonna fill a super soaker full of lemonade. Carl's gonna fill one with iced tea. And we're gonna Arnold Palmer Lenny when he walks in.
All of a sudden, the waitress went over to another table, and the lady at the table said, I want an Arnold Palmer. Well, all of us turned our head. What is she talking about? And she said, I want what he ordered. I was embarrassed to ask for an Arnold Palmer. I always say, can I have an iced tea? Put about a third of it in lemonade. And they said, oh, you want an Arnold Palmer.
A great story, but my favorite Arnold Palmer story is that he grew up as a hardscrabble kid in the Depression. His father was the greenskeeper and golf teacher at Latrobe Country Club, and they wouldn't let Arnold as a boy swim in the swimming pool or play golf when the fancy schmancy Latrobe Country Club members were around. Well, in 1971, Arnold bought the country club. Palmer loved to sign autographs. My friend Bruce Dole told at the time he was about 12 years old in the 60s, and he asked Arnold Palmer for his autograph, and Arnold Palmer asked him if he had a pen, and Bruce said no, and he asked him if he had a piece of paper, and he said no, and Arnold Palmer waited for him to run back to the car to get his pen and a piece of paper. Here's the Golf Channel on the legacy of Arnold Palmer.
He came along at a time when the cultural zeitgeist of America, the setting was right. Golf was a sleepy country club game, and then along comes this muscular, tilting Pennsylvanian with a corkscrew swing and a handsome grimace, and suddenly he was an irresistible figure.
Arnold Daniel Palmer, the classic American sports icon, was a man of the people.
Arnold was another Walter Hagen. He smoked cigarettes. He'd have a whiskey. He smashed the ball all over the place. He holed long putts. He was daring do.
He sweated. He chain smoked. His shirt tail came out. He hit the ball through tree trunks.
He played golf like it was almost a barroom brawl.
Somehow, Arnold remains the boy next door. He's everybody's hero.
There's a tough and resilient side to Arnold, fighter that comes from his father. Very disciplined, tremendous will to win, driven, hard as nails, hands like a blacksmith. And then from his mother's side, he had this great people side. His mother was a tremendous people person.
As a 19-year-old, Arnold burst on the golfing scene when he won the U.S. Amateur. 6 years later at the Masters, Palmer came into America's living rooms one birdie away from victory.
Here it comes, the 5 or 6 iron. The ball on the green, and within approximately 3 feet of the pin, a magnificent shot by Arnold Palmer.
I'll never forget that scene, Arnold coming over the brow of the hill with a cigarette, and that now famous stance of his where he hitched up his trousers, snorted a little bit, and flipped the cigarette away in some sense of defiance, as if to say, I can conquer anything and everything in life. Here's this blue-collar fellow who all of a sudden has captured a game that up until then had a very elitist look to it.
Palmer was a perfect figure for television because of the athleticism, the good looks, and the way he played the game. He created the excitement that TV symbolized. It was immediate, it was fresh, it could take people right to the scene in ways that media had never done.
The legend continued to grow later that summer, both in America, with his come-from-behind victory at Cherry Hills in the U.S. Open, and abroad, where he single-handedly changed the course of another championship.
He was the one who really popularized the British Open again. Once he came to Scotland, and he played in the Open Championship in the Centenary Open at St Andrews, which he finished second in. That set the Open alight again. So it's really thanks to Arnold that the Open is what it is today.
The British took to Arnold like no golfer since Bobby Jones, and it was contagious as around the world the game clung to his coattail. Palmer was the first player to hire an agent, the first to capitalize on his popularity off the course, and the first to earn $100,000 in one season. The modern professional was forged in Palmer's image. Golf fans everywhere were drawn to his charisma. They called themselves Arnie's Army.
He loved performing. He loved to make people laugh and clap and smile. And he knew that pulling off a great shot would electrify people.
I've never known a person in my whole life who enjoyed being who he was as much as Arnold enjoys being Arnold Palmer. I mean, he truly loves it. I used to accuse him of carrying a pair of high-powered binoculars around with him so he could see if there was somebody else who might need an autograph.
Arnold Palmer sold golf to the American public, and his number one customer was another national hero who picked up the game and brought it to the White House lawn.
Well, Eisenhower was the first serious golf nut president we ever had. So again, it was one of those conjunction of stars. Arnold was, to Eisenhower, like a symbol of perfect emerging American youth. Arnold was like a son to Eisenhower.
Together, they spread the gospel to millions of leisure-minded Americans. Between 1960 and 1970, golf in the United States boomed as never before. As the number of players doubled from 5 million to 10, the number of courses exploded from 6,300 to 10,000. In effect, a new golf course opened in America every day of the year for 10 straight years. But no aspect grew more dramatically than the professional tour. Except for a couple of California Pro-Ams and the majors, the tour had been a succession of modest community-run events. All that changed on Arnie's watch, as commercial sponsors began to pay serious money for television rights. Pro golf became big business.
Today we're covering the 5 finishing holes, Bing, and I would like to say this is the first year in color, and I appreciate the fact that you have on such a beautiful green hat.
How do you like the little red? To walk into the truck in those early years and look at black and white pictures was really depressing. But boy, when we got color cameras, and I just sat in total bewilderment and amazement. And I thought, oh, this is it.
Television's impact spawned a dramatic increase in purses for professional golfers. The world could now watch closely, and what they were about to see would amaze a generation.
Here's an anecdote that Randall Mell wrote about on NBC. Palmer mailed out thousands of notes of congratulation and encouragement in his lifetime. Kyle Hitchcock, a high school sophomore back in 2001, knows the Palmer touch. He was dejected, making news in South Florida after turning himself in for signing an incorrect scorecard that cost his team a berth in the state championship. Hitchcock got one of Palmer's personal notes. "I admire you for the courage and honesty you showed," Palmer wrote Hitchcock. "You had to make a difficult decision with obviously damaging consequences, yet you made the right choice and you were able to walk away from the event with your head held high." A year later, Hitchcock won the state championship. I think maybe the final word should go to Jack Nicklaus, whose career eclipsed Palmer's. Nicklaus was the better player, but he was also smart enough to know what Arnold Palmer brought to the game and what he meant to Jack Nicklaus as well. They had a love-hate relationship. Palmer said, "I always looked to see what he shot," and he said it was a great rivalry, and the rivalry didn't take away from the friendship. The nature of the relationship came through when Palmer's first wife, Winnie, died in November of 1999. Nicklaus and his wife, Barbara, left the PGA Tour Q School at Doral, where they were watching their son, Gary. They flew to Latrobe to attend Winnie's funeral. There, Palmer invited Nicklaus to watch Gary win his PGA Tour card on television. They reportedly fell into each other's arms in joy and sadness. Nicklaus appreciated what Palmer meant to the game. "There's no question about his record and ability, but think of how much he brought to the game," Nicklaus once said. "The hitch of his pants, the fans. He paralleled the growth of television golf. He was just the right man at just the right time." Right guy, right time, right place. That was Arnold Palmer. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. There's really only one guy we could close with tonight, and that's Der Bingle, Bing Crosby. The only thing he liked as much as singing was golf. And in the late 50s, again, right when golf was taking off because of Arnold Palmer, Bing released a song by a couple of Franks boys, Sammy Kahn and Jimmy Van Heusen, and I think it's the first song ever about golf. It's got that jazzy late 50s, early 60s feel that Arnold Palmer embodied. So as a final tribute to Arnold Palmer, the man who made golf what it is today, here's Bing Crosby singing Straight Down the Middle.
Oh, the life of a golfer is not all blue, but I'm in my glory when I say that it went straight down the middle. Where it wound up is a riddle, but it went straight down the middle.